Thank you for joining us as we elevate the Black entrepreneur experience by interviewing CEOs, thought leaders, innovative thinkers, and Black entrepreneurs across the globe. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Richards. Our next guest is a dynamic corporate speaker, author, and consultant. Welcome, Cassandra Worthy.
What it do? How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I am perfect. Listen, I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you want them to know about you and your business?
Sure. So I call myself the world's leading expert on change enthusiasm. You might be scratching your head wondering what the heck is change enthusiasm? Well, this is actually a growth mindset that I invented. And it enables those who practice it the ability to harness the power of emotion to fuel growth through change and disruption. So I'm founder and CEO of a consulting company called Change Enthusiasm Global. We sit right at the intersection of change and emotion in the workplace. And so I lead training engagements, leadership development, as well as do a lot of keynote engagements centered on bringing and elevating this growth mindset of change enthusiasm to life, enabling individuals within corporations and businesses to fuel their growth when they're going through big change and disruption.
Wow. I tell you, you must be busy, because when we talk about what's going on today in the workplace, talk about how did you get there?
Yeah. So how did I get here? So I'm actually a chemical engineer by trade. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. I went to university at Georgia Tech. I've always had an insatiable curiosity. And I always tell people that math and science found me because they armed me with the tools to actually answer all the questions that I had about what I call the mysteries of life. And so I just naturally gravitated towards science and math. And so engineering was a good fit for me. And I spent about 15 years working in corporate America, and it was all in consumer packaged goods. And mostly at Procter & Gamble. So I've worked on some pretty major brands and was able to do process innovation, kind of scale up manufacturing all around the world, which was a lot of fun. And it allowed me to stay curious, to solve complex problems, which is also something that I love to do. And honestly, what you learn with an engineering degree, you learn how to solve problems. But during that career, I experienced a lot of change, notably in the acquisition space. So I was a part of integrating a multi-billion-dollar acquisition that was made by my parent company. And then I was a part of a business that later got acquired by a different company and had to go through kind of the reverse of that. And so I felt that pain and that struggle of, that type of change that feels like it happens to you, and it shows up, you didn't ask for it, and you're wondering why me, why us, what is this? And all of the frustration and the anger and the anxiety and the fear that's inspired when that type of change comes. And I recognized in working through those acquisition experiences, that though leaders would say this is going to be difficult, there is very little to arm and empower the employees to actually acknowledge and do something with that emotional energy. It was more like, yes, it's going to be hard, but then suck it up, grit your teeth and bear it. And we're just going to have to get through it. And I knew that there had to be a better way. And so I actually started practicing this mindset as a leader, as an executive going through these acquisitions, inspiring myself as well as my team and organizations through change. And then as I followed my intuition, followed curiosity, that was constantly telling me there was something better, something bigger that I should be doing to make the world a better place. That's when I started to craft an idea that, maybe I could package this. Maybe I could create this in a way such that I could teach it to another, to empower them to acknowledge that difficult part of change, not suppress it, not ignore it, but embrace it as our invitations to our greatest opportunities to grow. And we all sit in that seat of power, that seat of choice, to choose how we show up, how we experience change, how we navigate through change. And so that was really what set me on my path. I started building my consulting company back in 2017 while I was still working full time. At that time, I was in Duracell, which is a part of Berkshire Hathaway. And it was growing the business, landing speaking engagements. And I just got to a point where I had more bookings on my calendar than I had vacation days. And I knew that it was the next step for me was to sunset corporate as I had known it, and kind of turn the page and come back to support corporate and in hopes of transforming it from within. So I left my corporate position in 2019 and have been off to the races with my global consultancy ever since.
What is something you wish you knew before starting your business?
Something I wish that I knew before starting the business. I think it's something, I would say something that I wish was elevated, and I hope that I had grasped a little bit firmer when I first started. And that's the importance of acknowledging and embracing those things that I'm really good at, that I excel at, and that lights me up, that gives me a lot of passion. And then being okay with letting go of the things that I'm not as great at, and allowing others, when that's their lane, to take on that work. You know, I think I had a little bit of a taste of that in corporate America, but it's just very different when it's your own business, when it's your own kind of seed, your own baby that you've nurtured and you've poured everything into it, done every aspect of it. And so now using that idea, that concept of, you know what, I need to outsource or even insource, bring employees in to do these areas of the business that don't light me up and that I'm not the best at. And so that idea of letting go, that idea of trusting is something that I just wish I had a much firmer grasp on when I was first starting the business. But, you know, we learn and we grow.
Right. I like that. And you talk about sunsetting. I like that word, corporate, quitting corporate. How was that for you?
For me, it was bittersweet, honestly, because I didn't leave my corporate position because I was miserable. I didn't leave my corporate position because, you know, I had to get out and that I was running away. I was running towards the energy of my life. I was running towards my purpose and what I was supposed to be doing. And, you know, I was leaving a group of individuals, an organization, a team that I really enjoyed, leaving, doing really cool innovation in the battery industry. But again, I was walking my path. And so there was bittersweet emotions. There was a little bit of, gosh, I'm gonna miss working with these individuals and kind of this type of work, but so much elation, so much excitement, as well as so much apprehension, like, oh, I'm walking away from a really healthy salary. I am walking away from paid benefits to do this thing on my own. So it was just a mixed bag of emotions. But for me, it's that feeling that energy of your life pulling. It's something I heard Oprah say once, but I truly felt that. I felt myself walking that path, and it was just the right next step. It's something that I had to do because the purpose of my life was calling me.
Talk about funding your business. You alluded to a little bit. You were a hybrid entrepreneur working your 9 to 5 as well as in corporate, as well as the business you started. How did you fund the business?
Yeah, so in large part, it was leveraging my salary that I was so grateful to have in corporate. And then I also, thanks to the guidance of my brilliant sister, who's also an engineer and rocking it right now, investing in real estate. And so the big kind of tranche of early investment in the business that allowed me to step away, and knowing that I had like a 1.5 years of runway, was liquidating one of my real estate assets. And so that was one of the big investments. And again, the whole thing has been bootstrapped. And now I'm so grateful to have gotten to a place where I'm doing really well in the speaking industry and able to command, I think, the fee that I deserve and that I'm worth. And that's been able to then funnel back into the business. So it continues to be bootstrapped. I'm not closing the door to capital, to raising, but right now I am able to fund the business based on my own early investments, as well as the revenue that's being generated out of my speaking business.
Would you recommend that to others, or do you have another strategy in terms of funding your business if someone is looking to start?
Yeah, I would really say it's a case-by-case basis, right? And I think it really just depends on what's going to make the most sense for the individual and the type of business that you're starting, right? So if you're starting a kind of business that's a disruptor, that as soon as it hits the market, competitors who have a lot more funding and a lot more resources can then see and then immediately kind of beat you with the crescendo to market. Those are the type of businesses that kind of it behooves you to have capital in the beginning, because you need to be the first. and you need to have a big explosion to move quickly. My business is different from that, in that we're kind of on a slow burn, slow burn growth. And I know that I'm not creating something that will truly compete in multi-billion-dollar consulting firms like the BCGs, the Accentures of the world. I'm creating something that is niche, and something that I'm okay to take my time at developing, at growing, at getting right, and adding value around the world. And so I'm not trying to be, speed to market. I'm not trying to be the first at this, because I'm not the first consulting company. I think, I'm the first that laser focused at the intersection of change and emotion. I don't think anyone's ever done that, but I'm okay with going at a bit of a slower pace. And so that's afforded me to be able to have that capital kind of drip in versus needing a huge rush of capital at the beginning. So it really depends on the individual. It depends on the business, depends on the nature of your market, and kind of what you need to grow in the way that you desire to grow.
What is your zone of genius, Cassandra?
Oh, my zone of genius. So I would liken that to my purpose. And I think what is my unique divine gift. And for me, it is inspiring this same light, this energy, this effervescence and joy that I feel fueling me, that I feel bubbling up through me, to inspire that same light in another. And when I get off a stage, or when I get off of a call, or when I'm in a team meeting, when I was working in corporate, and I see that light, that same light I feel in me, bounce out of somebody's face, out of somebody's eyes, out of somebody's smile. And it's like the energy is rising up to greet each other. That's magic to me. And I know that that is my gift. And I feel light in that moment. There's an effervescence, there's an exuberance that happens when I'm in those magical moments. And so I think that that truly is my zone of genius, is to inspire that divinity, that light, that energy from another. And so I'm fortunate to be able to leverage that gift on stages all around the world, and truly to be able to kind of weave that gift into the mindset of change enthusiasm, because it's about recognizing our emotional energy that speaks through us, and seeing it as signals, as guideposts, as knowledge, as data to guide us, especially when times get tough, when going through change.
What is the best decision you've made as a leader?
I'm going to tell you the best decision I've made as a leader, as a person, as a human being. And it was when I said yes to my alcoholism and yes to sobriety. The best decision I've ever made in my life. I was arrested for DUI back in, when was this? It's going on 8 years, 2016, 2017. It's a good thing now. It's kind of lose track of how many years of sobriety I have. But after that arrest, I told myself, you know what? I'm not just a problem drinker. I am an alcoholic, and it's okay. And it's okay. It's a part of this beautiful entity that I am. And it's just healthier for me and for those around me that I abstain from drinking. Both my parents are recovering alcoholics. I'm so grateful for them, to have their guidance, to have their wisdom. And for me, it was the best decision that I made, to say yes to alcoholism, and that it's okay, and grant myself permission to live in this world, to experience life completely sober. Because it's in sobriety that intuition that I mentioned before, that I heard that whisper in corporate, it got louder and louder and louder. And it's because of sobriety, because of the clarity that I had, that I was able to step into that curiosity and start walking my path. And I strongly believe that it's the reason that I'm standing in front of you today having this conversation.
Thank you for that, for being so authentic and transparent in that. There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire, and why.
Oh, a brand or business that's dominating, and why? This is a really good question. Man, you've stumped me on this one. I'm going through my database of all my clients that I so enjoy working with, and then just the brands that I use every day. You know what? I'll probably have to just give a shout out to Signet Jewelers. They're one of the largest diamond retailers in the world, and they're a client of ours. One of their executive leaders actually sits on the board of Change Enthusiasm Global. And I've had a lot of exposure to their leadership, to their culture, and to what they believe in. And I think that they are doing it right, and that they acknowledge and welcome the heart of leadership, welcome the heart of getting the work done. And I truly believe that they put people over profit. And I can see and I can feel that in the energy when I'm connecting with them. And they're ones that have just embraced change enthusiasm, that mindset, and have just soared because of it. I think they do a really good job about caring for not only their clientele, but also for the employees. They put people first, which I think is important, and I think is truly what's going to sustain any business, as people over profit, and making sure that your people first intention actually has that people first impact. Because a lot of companies fail at that. They'll tell you that we put people first, but the impact is people last. But I think Signet does it right.
What do you think is going on with the quiet quit?
Quiet quitting. I think it's individuals who have had the opportunity to do some self-exploration, to do some understanding of where they hold value, what life means, and where they want to take their careers and how they want to spend their time and creating value and creating value in the world. And I think that was afforded during the pandemic. And so I think that individuals are choosing themselves and making those choices to find the companies, find the type of work that lights them up, knowing that, life is not guaranteed, right? Tomorrow's not guaranteed to anyone. And so I think that individuals are beginning to choose themselves. Now, I will say that the way that this is manifested into this idea of quiet quitting, and that individuals are making that choice and not expressing it, not voicing it, I think that onus is put back in the culture, put back in the managers, put back in the leaders, because that tells me that a culture has not been nurtured with trust, with creating those welcoming environments where if you are thinking about, I want to choose me, I want to put my time and effort and energy and talent somewhere else, they don't feel that level of trust to actually share that with their management or with their leaders. And so I think that it is an opportunity for leadership, for management across businesses all around the world to make sure that they are nurturing the type of culture where there is that trust, where there is that level of comfort for individuals to express their truest and most full selves. And it actually reminds me, so we recently engaged with a leading research institute called CGK, set out to research and study that intersection of change and emotion in the workplace. What drives resistance? What emotions are employees most readily feeling when going through change? What are effective strategies to mitigate resistance to change? And we discovered that 78%, at least here in America, 78% of working Americans would more readily adapt to change if they felt comfortable sharing their truest emotions. And so not only are you going to have that environment where employees will feel safe to express, what, I'm thinking about going elsewhere, I'm thinking about sharing my talents in a different way, and this is why, but they're also going to be more apt to engage in whatever change initiative you might be bringing, whatever new strategy, whatever growth that you might be targeting. And so that's on us as leaders to share that empathetic leadership, to create that safe space, to strive to be consistent in our behaviors and our words, to celebrate authenticity, and let employees know that they are safe to share their truest and best selves.
And I like that, Cassandra, you said that, because I was thinking about in my career, I never felt like I could share anything. And I don't know if it was because of the timing and the generation that I came up, but I never shared with my superiors, my leaders, or even when I got into leadership, I would never share my truest emotions.
Yeah. And how was that for you?
I think that coming from, even as an entrepreneur, that's a whole nother mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that it was a break for me to actually be able to be authentically myself. So it was a work that I had to do.
Yeah.
Fast forward to, no, go on.
No, I was going to say authenticity. I mean, I think That's such a widely used term right now, and you've seen it pop up everywhere. And so I always like to define it whenever I'm speaking to it. And for me, it's a very fluid concept. And it's really about being honest and truthful with ourselves. But I often say that in order to be truly authentic, you have to know you. You have to come to know yourself. And that takes a boldness, a daringness to actually dig deep, to understand what truly does light me up. What am I curious about? Where are my boundaries? What do I not want to stand for in the workplace? Daring and bold to get truthful with yourself, and then even more bold to actually state that, to bring that into the workplace. But yeah, it's fluid. What felt authentic to me 15 years ago might not feel so authentic today, because we learn and we grow in different life experiences. I think there's a certain essence in us that will always remain the same, but that authenticity, what rings true, that behavior, those words, what resonates, could change as you grow and evolve. I just wanted to offer that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's excellent. And what I'm finding is millennials and Gen Zs, they come to the workplace with true emotions. And I'm finding a difference. And so the question is around, are you seeing a difference in the workplace with individuals really expressing their emotions, some not really understanding how and the timing to express their emotions? And I'm going to ask you if that's true.
Yeah, we did see that. So we actually did breakouts generationally and had a really good representation across all generations within our research. And we certainly see that for younger generations, that it's more important for them to be able to share those truest emotions. And they are more readily apt to engage in change initiatives when they feel safe and comfortable sharing their truest selves, when they feel heard and understood by their management. And the other nuance that we found about younger generations, especially as it relates to resistance, the older generations, the Gen Yers, the baby boomers, and older, the reason that they resist change is because they're comfortable with the way things are. This is the way I've always done it. Why are you trying to change it? I'm known as an expert. I'm great at this. Don't try to change me. It's not broken. But for the younger generations, it's about not wanting to look incompetent, not wanting to look like they don't have all of the right answers. But if you think about both of those responses, it's rooted in fear and anxiety. It's a fear of looking like I don't have the right answers, like I'm making mistakes. It's a fear of not being able to do things well because I'm outside of my comfort zone. And so it's interesting how both of those responses are still rooted in what I call signal emotions of change. It's all inviting you into an opportunity, right? As you're moving through the change, to actually show up and choose how you navigate in that moment. But we certainly saw generational differences as far as the reasons why they feel resistant to change.
Thank you for that. Talk about your top 2 influencers or mentors, and what lessons did they teach you?
My top 2, you limit me to 2? Let's see, who influences me? So I have to say that my wife is a huge influencer in my life. And they are ones who will hold me to being my full authentic self. They are ones who also challenge my thinking. And they are ones who are always my support, right? My rock, always. And they provide a lot of perspective that I don't have and haven't thought about. They're an attorney, criminal defense. And so there's a lot of exposure and experience that they have gleaned in the world that I just haven't. And so that's been a huge help for me. The other mentor, someone that I look up to, is my older sister. And I mentioned her earlier, but we both played the same 3 sports in high school. Got the Iron, it's called the Iron Man award, but the Iron Person Award for 3 years of varsity level, three different sports. We both went to Georgia Tech. We were both on the track and field team there. And she's also an engineer. And so I've kind of followed in her footsteps, and a lot of the guidance. Like, she's the reason that I had the capital to invest in my business. And she actually was a huge support for me in getting my business off the ground. And she too now sits on the board of Change Enthusiasm Global. So well-trusted mentors, advisors, and people that I get to see all the time, because it's my family, the other thing that I'll add, thinking about points of inspiration, because I'm asked that a lot also from the stage, who inspires you? And for me, my sources of inspiration come from those who are comfortable in their own skin, who are comfortable being them all day long. And so I often just think about my favorite baristas at my coffee house down the street, because they are themselves unabashedly every day. And for me, that is the most inspiring thing to see, because it's what I aspire to, right? It's what I aspire to bring in every keynote engagement and every client engagement, every conversation, is to speak, to act in a way that is resonant with my truest essence and being that full authentic self.
You've had many speaking engagements. Talk about one that was so impactful that you want to share.
I'll share two. The first is an engagement that I did with a multi-level marketing organization, and not to make anyone blush, but it was pure romance. And all of their sales leaders. So it was about 400 or 500 empowered, predominantly women, who have gone off and, started their own business, striving to make money for themselves and their family, and really just looking for the goods, for the help, for the support that's going to help them to grow, their business. And they were the most supportive. They were the most exuberant. They were the most open and honest audience that I have ever experienced. I walked up on the stage and got a standing ovation. I talked for about 3 minutes, got another standing ovation. And then during the Q&A, tears were shed. I got emotional just about how open and honest that they were, and the struggles that they were having, and the advice that they were seeking. And so there was a lot of love and really great energy within that client engagement. The other one that really stands out for me is one that I recently had with a multi-billion-dollar company in the pet care space. And it was with their most senior executive team. It was their CEO and their global executive leadership team, as well as a few members from the board. And there was a lot of, well, I'm not going to call it apprehension, but just making sure that I'm able to cultivate, to package my message in a way such that it lands with that executive team. Now, I've done a lot of presentations to high-level executives, many actually, and it's becoming far more that group than others. But there's always this, that imposter syndrome, that whisper that you get, why you don't deserve to be here, why you standing on this stage talking to all these executives leading all around the world. And so I have to quiet that and remind myself, if I'm in this room, I'm meant to be here. And that presentation went so well. It went so well. And I think it had an incredible impact. The CEO gave me a big hug afterwards, said that's exactly what they needed to hear. Afterwards, another one reached out, and I'm now mentoring this individual. And so I think that it had the impact, but it was a lesson for me, and the power of shutting down that imposter and reinforcing to me that belief that I'm meant to be in every room that I stand in. And I have a message, and I have an energy, and I have perspective that is needed. And even if it's just one person, which is also my goal whenever I get on a stage, I want to impact that one person to transform their thinking and improve themselves moving forward. If I can get the one, then I'm doing right. I'm doing right.
Let's talk about how you structured your business, and you talked about having a board of directors. Why did you go the route of having a board of directors, and how did you vet your board of directors?
Sure. So it's an advisory board. So it's a board of advisors. And I knew that getting into building, a business consulting globally from the ground up, there are going to be blind spots. There's going to be a lot that I just don't know. And I'm not going to step into this thing assuming that I have all the answers, because I just don't. I have a fraction of the answers. But what I do have is a vision. What I do have is the belief. What I do have is the trust and the knowing that this is something that the world needs. And it's something that I want to elevate and bring all around the world. And so I knew that I needed support, that I needed help, I needed perspective in order to bring that to life. And so these are actually a small group of individuals. 2 of them were past clients. And so they've had exposure to change enthusiasm, the leadership development that we do, the training that we do. They've seen the transformation in their own organizations, and we've just kept in touch. One of them I actually coached for a while. And so we have just nurtured a relationship since my engagement with them. And so they were an easy choice for me. Another is a business partner that I have who has created and sold over $200 million of tech companies in his career. He's also a speaker, an incredible individual, Josh Linkner. And so he was also a very easy choice, because he's going to provide the perspective of if we decide to exit the business and sell the business, what that needs to look like. And then, of course, my sister, who was the first person that I asked. So that was also a very easy choice. But yeah, I know there's going to be blind spots. There's going to be a lot of things that I don't know, I don't have the answers to, as well as opportunities that I just don't have, sight to. And so I'm so grateful that they all said yes. I'm so grateful to have them as a sounding board, as guidance. And for me to step into the room with them, knowing that I don't have to have all the right answers, that I don't have to be polished, that I can come in there with vulnerability, with fear, with concern, and I know and I trust they're going to support me and help to build me up and guide me, and also provide the tough perspective, right? The information that I probably don't like to hear, but that I need to hear. I trust that they're going to do that as well.
So let's take a look forward. Let's fast forward. What does your business look like in a year from now?
Oh, wow. In a year from now, I hope that we have multiple contracts on more than 3 different continents around the world. I hope that we have empowered and inspired thousands of leaders around the world into the power of embracing and acknowledging emotion when going through change, that we have inspired and empowered leaders across organizations with the understanding of why they need to be empathetic, why they need to let go of the myth that our research has officially debunked, that we need to leave emotion at the door of business. And I just hope that we have, continued to grow in a way to bring change enthusiasm around the world, and that the movement has grown. My hope is that it's grown tenfold in the next 12 months. So I have very audacious goals for the business, and not only how we're growing in revenue, but also in impact, which for me is what's most important.
Take a snapshot of the last 30 days. What was your biggest win?
My last 30 days? The biggest win. It's so funny. This is honest. So as soon as you said your biggest win, I don't know why, but I started thinking about all the dessert that I've eaten. all the dessert. I had a really good one up at my last engagement in Detroit, a strawberry cake. It was delicious. So I have a massive sweet tooth. That just shows you that's where our mind goes. That's straight up. But I would say in the past 30 days, honestly, I had a really good engagement yesterday. Did I fly home yesterday? Sometime this week. It was a double header. I had a really wonderful engagement with Comerica Bank and their community of business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as executives in different businesses in Detroit. And then I also got to share the virtual stage with someone who I'm watching and really admire, a speaker named Sean Kanungo. He's so vibrant. His virtual engagements are next level, and I got to see it before I was on. So it was a very exhausting day, delivering 2 keynotes because you put all your energy into it. But the people that I got to meet, the folks that I got to inspire and hopefully move and impact, that's what keeps me going, right? That's why I get up and live on purpose each and every day. So that was a really fun day.
And how do you make impact daily?
How do I make impact daily? I just trust that by being me, by living my purpose, by staying laser focused on the mission of Change Enthusiasm Global, making steps to bring that to life around the world every day, that I'm making that impact. I just have to trust that. And then, when I started my speaking career, one of my mentors told me that regardless of if you're talking to 2 people or 20,000, bring the energy, bring the perspective, bring all of you into that engagement. And that's what I still do to this day. Every single keynote message, no matter who I'm delivering to, I want to make sure that I am striving to create the type of impact and transformation that's going to get them excited about practicing change enthusiasm and becoming more self-actualized to grow through change.
If you lost everything and you had to rebuild in 30 days, what industry and why?
If I lost everything and had to rebuild in 30 days, what industry? So I'll tell you that CEG's top 5 industries that we are looking to support over the next decade is healthcare, automotive, finance, tech, and CPG. Those are the ones that we've worked with the most throughout the pandemic, and the ones that I see that are going to be the most VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous over the next decades. And so that's our target industry. And so I would probably say if I needed to rebuild, I would probably start in healthcare. Just because we have so much experience working in that sector and a lot of clientele already. And it's just an industry that's near and dear to me. And there's a lot of opportunity in that industry to help as they go through a lot of change, a lot of disruption and transformation. And I think it's the industry that's close to the top of the list of needing change enthusiasm, needing what we bring in our leadership development programs, as those employees are feeling burnt out. Those employees are feeling weary and anxious about what's next, right? And how will we continue to grow and thrive and deliver to our patients when they need us most.
I want you to have a monologue. I want you to name this person, living or not. They've inspired you so much. Who is that person and what are you saying to that person?
Man, you got hard questions. Holy Jesus. Who is the person that I want to have a conversation with? And because they've inspired me so much. So the top 2 that came to mind are Einstein and Oprah. I'll use the Oprah example. And although it might be cliche, because there's probably a whole bunch of people that say Oprah, I'll tell you exactly why she has been such an inspiration for me. I think that Oprah is one who embodies her authentic light and her unique gifts and abilities in a way to elevate the consciousness of all of humanity. I think that she got brutally honest with what her gifts are and her talents, what she's able to do like nobody else, and then carved out a niche that then became a movement, and now this incredible business that she's developed. But for me, it's her living her authentic self and sharing her light and her gift and embracing what it is, and then finding ways to bring it to the world. And that's a lot of the language that I've been using over our time together here today, is about getting bold and daring, about coming to know me. A lot of that self-discovery happened in the early days of sobriety. And it continues to happen. I journal every day. It's a spiritual practice to get to know me, that taking an emotional inventory, understanding what's lighting me up nowadays, what's inviting those signal emotions, any fear, frustration, coming to know Cassandra and this divinity that serves us through me. And then how do I share these gifts? How do I share the best of myself with the world? And I think Oprah does that in spades. And that's why she has been such a bright guiding light for me.
You alluded to some about the journaling, coming to know me, coming to know you. I like that. And someone is listening and saying, how do I come to know? How do it's kind of embodied into becoming.
Mhm.
Can you give our audience some practices that you do in reference to coming to know themselves, really sitting with themselves?
Yeah. So like I said, it takes a boldness because there's usually a fear. And I know it very well because for years I numbed it out. I would drink or use so I didn't have to come to know me. So I didn't have to explore the difficulty. And honestly, I think that's where the real fruit is, the real opportunity for growth and coming to know who you are is during the difficult parts. Is when you feel those really challenging emotions like anger or frustration, exploring what is this emotion trying to tell me? What opportunity am I being invited into that's being signaled by this emotional energy? Why do I feel so angry in this moment? What is the cue that I've gotten that's inspired such anger? I think the more that we can explore those difficult emotions that so often we just want to numb out or run away from or escape, I think that's really where the lessons are and the fruit is. And I firmly believe that it's data. This is a language that speaks through all of us. And if we can listen and strive to understand, that's when we can come to know ourselves. And like I said, for many years, whenever those emotions were inspired within me, I would look for a bottle. I would look for a cocktail so that I wouldn't have to hear it. I wouldn't have to be bothered with it. But when you can get bold and strive to understand that, the growth can really happen. And start small, right? Start small, just getting still and listening, and then just exploring, getting curious. And like I said, for me, it was step changed once I started to journal. Once I started seeing those thoughts and that emotional energy in black and white, and you go back and read through it and see in my mental state, then I could learn from that and then kind of step forward. And so it's been a great way for me to evolve and a great way for me to grow.
Talk to someone in our audience, they're struggling with drinking. What advice would you, or any addiction? I want to focus on the drinking aspect. I know a lot of young people are dealing with that.
Yeah. So I'll just share my own perspective and my journey because I think everyone's journey is different. And I'm not going to strive to prescribe or kind of say the special language that's gonna speak to that individual. I'm just going to share my own personal perspective and my journey. So for so long, I convinced myself that I'm just a heavy drinker. Even though both my parents are alcoholics, both of them told me, maybe you're drinking a little bit too much, maybe it's something to consider. I'd always ignore that. I'd actually go to AA meetings with them. But the reason was so that I could convince myself that I'm not an alcoholic, because I could hear all the stories in the room about people getting DUIs, people being locked up, people losing jobs. None of that had happened to me. So there's no way that I could be an alcoholic because I don't sound like any of these people. And it was when I was in the back of that squad car, having been arrested for DUI, that the world came crumbling down, right? And then I started to realize, I started to hear kind of this whisper, you're an alcoholic and it's okay. You're an alcoholic and it's okay. And for me, that was my bottom. That was my bottom. And that's when I decided that, you know what? I can continue to say that I'm not one of those individuals. But if I look back on kind of my life, my choices, the way I think about drinking, and I gave a lot of thought to drinking, what I'm going to drink, when am I going to drink it? What am I going to drink the next day? How will I recover from the drinking? A lot of time spent all around drinking. And then I was able to embrace, honestly, I think through the divinity that surges through me, that I'm an alcoholic and it's okay. It's a part of who I am. And, like I said, it's a healthier choice for me not to drink and to abstain. It is when I garnered and I really embraced that belief that I am an alcoholic and it's okay. That's what broke me free. That's what broke me free from that prison of needing and having to drink in order to feel like I could be comfortable with others, feel like I could be myself, feel like I could have fun and go to a party and go be social. That's when I had that freedom, when I nurtured the belief. And that belief comes differently to every single individual struggling with addiction. But I will tell you, when you can truly believe it within yourself, that the better choice for you is to abstain, the life experience that is in store for you, You have no idea. It's amazing. And, when I talk about, when I meet with folks in the rooms, at AA, other people who have recovered from addiction, I think that we are like superheroes because the amount of energy and focus that we're able to put in our drug of choice and alcohol or whatever, when that gets shifted into something else, for me, it was building this business. The impact you can have on the world is amazing. It's amazing. And I think that we addicts uniquely have that ability, that focus, that intent to do something and do it with all of our force and our effort and our heart. And when that becomes a different choice versus whatever is plaguing us in our addiction, when we can be open to those difficult emotions, allow that they are guideposts, signals, information to guide us, to help us grow moving forward, as opposed to be ignored or numbed out, that's when we are in a position to use that gift. You are a gifted individual, to use that gift to elevate the world and make it a better place.
Cassandra, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
I have to tell you, this has been one of the most thorough podcast interviews that I've ever had the privilege of being engaged with. And I don't know if you left anything on the table. So what is that one question that I would ask myself? I guess, what is the thing that's most important for me to keep me going, and to keep me living my mission and my purpose? And for me, it always comes back to belief. It always comes back to belief that I am meant to be here in this vessel, sharing my light and my energy and elevating the mission of Change Enthusiasm Global and living my purpose. It is what I am supposed to do, and I am so grateful to do it. And so get really clear and understand what are your beliefs, what drives you forward, and hold steady and hold fast to them.
We've come to the part of our interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and I'd like you to give me very quick answers. If there's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
Let's do it.
All right. Your ideal car?
Audi Q5 hybrid.
Your first job?
My first job, I was a courtesy clerk at Kroger. Courtesy clerk is a fancy way to say a bagging groceries. One of the most fun jobs I've ever had. And I often say, if I can get paid what I get paid today to bag groceries, I'd do it.
See, that's your next gig at Kroger's.
That's my retirement, right? Engaging with folks, bagging the groceries. Yeah, it's fun.
What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh my goodness. Anything with a bunch of sugar in it. Cakes, brownies, cookies, puddings, bread pudding. Yes.
The last movie you saw?
What did we watch recently? We're watching more shows than movies. I feel like I just watched a movie and I can't remember what it was. Oh, good gracious. I'll pass. If I remember, I'll come back to it.
You relax doing what?
I relax by journaling. I relax by spending time with my brilliant wife, and our little pup Rico. And I relax by taking walks and listening to podcasts.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
Oh man, Whitney. Whitney just had a gift that transcended all. Yeah, probably the favorite.
Your favorite dance song?
My favorite dance song? My wife just puts on a lot of good stuff and we always dance around the house, but I never know what the names of the songs are. So that doesn't help, does it? Anything with a good beat. Anything with a good beat.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
I shouldn't say desserts, but it's true. I also really like Greek yogurt, and toast. I have that most mornings. And so I'd be hard pressed to find a week where I haven't had some form of yogurt, the whole week.
Work out or hit the couch?
Probably hit the couch, but I'm striving to do more working out. My wife is not only a criminal defense attorney, she's also a yoga instructor. And so she's gotten me into yoga, which has been very nice. And like I said, I do like to take long walks and walk little Rico as well. But I'm probably spending more time on the couch just because I travel so often and there's an exhaustion that is there on the weekends. So yeah.
Cassandra Worthy, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, I want you to share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you. And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
Perfect. So you can connect, learn more at CassandraWorthy.com. That's where you can also inquire about booking me if you're working for a company that might need a good high energy speaker around change and emotion. My handles, you can find me at Cassandra Worthy on LinkedIn, Cassandra Worthy Speaker on Instagram. Also follow me on YouTube, Cassandra Worthy. I'm dropping daily videos all throughout this year, 2023. So a lot of good value, a lot of good nuggets as it relates to all things change, putting a lot of energy behind giving you free content that's going to help create that value. And then Facebook, we have a community. We are Change Enthusiasts. So you can follow the community there. We are Change Enthusiasts on Facebook. And then if you're interested in the company, want to land a training engagement, leadership development, changeenthusiasmglobal.com, changeenthusiasmglobal.com.
Thank you, Cassandra. That's a wrap.
Awesome. Thank you.